Good evening. Two hands here. First one is pocket twos. This is a 10 NL game, so we had under the gun raised. He has 35.7 big blinds left. He's playing 47-3, so pretty loose, but he really hasn't raised a whole lot. Pre-flop raise is 3%, 1 out of 36. So it could be that he's just been pretty cold, or it could be that he is actually pretty tight and prefers to check. And especially being under the gun, he may be something tight like that. Could be even tighter. So, if we start with that, it's to us. And is it worth it to set mine? We've got more than 10 big blinds behind, but I'm not sure if it's going to be worth it to set mine here. This player may be calling, and if he calls, say that's pretty good, but none of these other two look like they're going to call and let us go multi-way. So I think at this point, pocket twos, we may just have to let it go. Could raise, but he's, because he's so tight that I kind of think it's better if we just fold and move on with the next hand. I didn't. I called, and then the big blind called. So big blind's also going to be pretty tight, playing 12-6. His call from the big blind is 33%. Based on his stats, I'm going to guess that he's also playing pretty tight. We're going to take out the ace kings. He's playing 12% 6 VPIP. Or 12% VPIP, 6% pre-flop raise. He is not 3-bet. This is over 50 hands. So he could be just something like that. And our twos are really just not in very good shape. So he checks. And I'm going to say he's probably going to check everything. He doesn't really donk much. It has a lot of these pocket pairs that I think we can get to fold. Villain 19 checks, and if we go back and look at this, he could have the 10 Jack Queen and is afraid that he didn't hit, or he could have just flopped a monster, so have aces or kings, and now is looking to try to take stacks. So when he checks, it's on us. I mean, what should we do? So I think if we bet, he's probably going to fold these pocket pair below top pairs. Let's get this on here. Ace, king, 4. We would get those, so 32% folds. But I think he's going to be calling with everything else. I think this is just a bad spot. I mean, we have to get two people to fold. This guy's probably a little bit more likely to fold. And overall, it's going to hit, that board hits this guy's range harder than it hits either of ours. So I do think on the flop, we probably should just check behind. We tried to set mine. We missed it. Just fold. I didn't. I bet half pot. And this player folded, so could have had any of these under pairs. And this guy calls. So let's get my twos on here. So he checks, and I think he's probably going to check everything. And then when I bet, he calls. So yeah, I think sets, two pairs are going to call. Maybe even top pair, ace, queen, ace, jack. I mean, he hits top pair with a really good kicker on a mostly dry board here. We don't have anything on his c-bets because he normally doesn't raise. So I don't know, maybe he would have checked top pair. Maybe he would have bet top pair and middle pair, or he could have checked it. I do think two pair and sets are probably going to check it. And we'll take the draws out. So really, we're just looking at that, and we're in a load of hurt. Ace comes out, and that makes it that less likely that he actually has an ace. But he can still have pocket kings, maybe. And just because an ace comes out doesn't mean he doesn't have quad aces. So he checks again. I think he's going to check everything. I should be checking again. I made a play at the pot. Didn't work. Just be done with it. And he checks and calls. So at this point, I think it's full house and quads. I'm getting smoked. Now the 2 gets there, and it just kind of sucks me in. So if I bet, I'm getting called and I'm beat. And I bet, almost him all in, and he calls. And I'm sure at this point I'm thinking, well, he might have ace queen or ace jack, but really, I kind of think he probably would have bet those. And you know, I mean, even though we don't know what he has, it's just unusual for anybody to check call ace queen and check call ace jack. I just think it's unusual. So I bet he pushes all in. It's a couple more. We're beat. And he shows ace king. So yeah, that's definitely what we have in his range. He flopped 2 pair, and that's why he checked. So overall, this is just a poorly played hand on my part. Really should have just folded because this guy was a tight pass or a loose passive. He wasn't going to open raise unless he had a strong, very strong range. And that meant we should have just folded pocket 2s. And then on the flop, I mean, it's not worth it. That hits his range so hard that we should just check and hope we flop a 2 or turn a 2. All right, so this is hand number 1. Let me stop and get hand number 2. All right, hand number 2 is pocket jacks. We have villain 4 is going to open for 3, and it's on us. Now I called here, and I want to look at, possibly if we could raise. So looking behind us, we only have the big blind. He has called 36%. He's called 2 bets 36% of the time. From the big blind, he's called 14%. I wouldn't consider him overly loose, but I think if I call, there's a good chance that he's going to come along. What do we know about this player? He's playing 20% VPIP with a 4% pre-flop raise. He's technically in middle position, so his middle position raise first in is 5%. It kind of like the first hand, this guy is a little bit looser, but he's passive, and he's probably going to be raising a pretty tight range here. So, when we look at his range, I'm going to say he's probably looking at something like this, maybe not king queen off. That's 5.58. Maybe we could add a couple more pairs there, maybe the suited ace 10. That's about almost 8%. That's probably his range, and if I call, we keep those in his range. We keep all of these in his range. If I raise, I do think he's going to probably fold a lot. So right now, I fold the 3-bet after raise is 0 out of 4, and possible that since he is raising so tightly that he's just going to call 100%. Now, where does my jacks fall against that range? Against that range, we're at 56%. So I think we could conceivably raise and build a pot, or we can call and hope and get this guy to call, and then we have the opportunity to flop big and take 2 people stacks possibly. I'm not going to be against calling here, but recognize that this guy has a pretty tight range. If I 3-bet and he comes over the top, I think we have an easy fold. And that might actually be the play. Go ahead and raise, be the aggressor with jacks, knowing that he'll probably call with some weaker hands. So I didn't do that. And then what happened was kind of a little bit unexpected. The button called. So the button called here. His pre-flop calls is 6%. So he's going to be, I want to say tight, but not really tight. He is going to probably be calling with drawy type hands. So possibly with all of his pocket pairs hoping to hit trips. Possibly with hands like that. And maybe not all of these, maybe just, fives plus. I would assume that ace queen, ace jack, king queen comes along. He does have 3-bet. Is 8%. So let's modify his calls then. So let's assume based on that he's gonna call. He would have 3-bet ace queen, probably ace jack suited, king queen suited, maybe call with king queen. Not with queen jack. Maybe call with ace jack off. That is 8.6%. That could be a suitable calling range for a player like this. Kind kind of on the loose side. He's playing position. Um, and I think since he has 7% 3-bet range here, I think he's capable of 3-betting a little bit more. So we do have a lot of hands on him. So 3-bet range, queens plus, tens, ace queen suited, king jack suited, ace, queen jack suited, ace queen off, ace 10 off, king jack off. You can see he does have a pretty significant 3-bet range. So maybe let's add that. Maybe something like that. Now I think we have too much of this offsuit hand. Let's add king queen and queen jack. All right, so that's his range. And now we get to see a flop. So 6-6-8. Villain 4 checks. He had initiative. He raised, and now he checks. So what is he going to check here? That's a fairly innocuous board. I do think he's going to probably check his quads and check a full house. Oops, hold on. 8 of spades, 6 of clubs, and 6 of hearts. Okay, that's better. So I think he's going to be checking a full house. I mean, no reason to bet. You've got everything. Overpair, I would expect him probably to bet it, except maybe not aces or kings. So 9s, 10s, jacks, queens, I kind of expect him to bet those. Top pair hands, he doesn't really have. Pocket pair below the top card, 7s, kind of expect him to bet, to c-bet those. His c-bet stats are pretty low though, so if he doesn't connect, he's probably not c-betting. So something, again, c-betting 29.7%. Oh, hold on, but he checked. So let's get this back again. So we're going to say he can check that, but we expected queen, jack, 10, 9s to call. We expected full house to check. Top pair bets, those bet. So we're looking at checking 20.8%. Where does our jack stand against that? So you can see that we are basically going to be behind that range. It is a possibility that he has all of these, so ace high hands, no mate hands, but I kind of feel like this represents a good c-betting opportunity. The board probably doesn't hit anyone here. No one really showed any sort of strength. I think that's kind of what I would look at is, I can bet here and plan to take it with any sort of Broadway card. So it's possible he has those. Like all of these overcards, 2-card backdoor draws, no made hands, and so forth. So I guess at 70% he's checking. Now it's on us, and what should we do? Well, we can look here, and even this guy has a bunch of hands he's probably going to fold. What we want to do is try to get folds from the ace, king, king, queen, because we don't want to see one of those cards come on the turn. So I don't think we can check here. I do think we should bet. And how much should we bet? Probably need to bet, enough to get the job done, and I think that could be 7 or 8 big blinds. I think if we go smaller, it encourages some of those 2 overcards to call, whereas if we bet 7 or 8 big blinds, that applies some pressure to say, okay, I bet this big, now what might I bet on the next street. So I bet 6.64. I think that might be a little bit small. I wish I would have gone a little bit larger. So this player folds. Must not have had anything. And then this player calls. So let's get back to here. He calls. We have jack of clubs, jack of hearts. Now, when he calls, I don't think he's going to call with ace high. I really don't think. I think we're based on this player and the fact that he hasn't really c-bet much, I think we're going to probably be behind. One at Showdown, 64%. He's got at least a pair. And maybe he has queens or jacks or 10s too. 4 clubs comes out on the turn. Doesn't really change hands. He checks. I think at this point he's probably going to check his entire range. I think we should just check. We took a stab. He calls. And you think about what could he call with? If we bet, what are we hoping would call? I think 9s and 10s would call. But queens call that beat us, kings call that beat us, aces call, and if they raise, we're definitely going to have to fold. So I kind of think we can check here and then plan to call possibly the river. I didn't do that. I bet fairly large, and then he calls again, and at this point, I just don't. Again, I have to assume we're beat big time. King of diamonds comes out. That does represent a scare card that gets, pocket queens to fold possibly, but I kind of think if he called 2 streets with pocket queens, he's going to call again. So he checks, and I think we just check behind and see the showdown, and he shows ace king, which is actually kind of surprising. So I didn't really think he had ace king here, and I think we should make a note of it. So when we bet, we actually bet, 2/3 pot. He was good enough to check that ace high hand, and then he calls, and he called twice with ace king, which is kind of a surprise. So I don't really like my bet on the turn, because I assumed this player wouldn't have been calling with that weak range, but I think we need to make a note. So have a note here that says he let's see here, raised under the gun, RFI, in, what is this, MP, maybe, in with ace king off, check call on 866 board, check call 2/3 pot on 866 board, and then called. That was like 75%. Check call 75%. Pot on 4 club turn. So he had overs only. So we make a note, and if we see this, again, we definitely try to value bet. We try to value bet because he is going to call, or he can call. So, should have had this hand. That surprises us, but we made our note, and that will allow us to play a little bit better next time we see him. All right, this is hand number 2. Hope you enjoyed it. Look tomorrow for a couple more hands.